Ba-da-da-dum. Just kidding. Heather and I are both in our Wednesday fits.
Yeah.
Wearing our black and white just in time for Scorpio season.
Literally Labor Day hit and I was like, all I want to wear is white, also black, because I always wear black. But like, you know how they say no white after Labor Day? I feel like I've only worn white after Labor Day.
Also
I'm
in
an
LA though,
Aquarius.
it's like LA, I feel like that doesn't apply because it's like I think the rule should really be, first of all, there shouldn't be a rule. Second of all, and I
Yeah, what
feel
the
like we're
fuck?
all slowly changing that. Who gives a shit if you
Yeah,
wear
no one
white?
actually follows.
Let's get over it.
Yeah.
Also white as like a winter fit is like, it's very
Makes a lot of
snow.
sense, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't get it.
Yeah.
And I think the rule too is more of like white pants. But even still, I think we're getting away
Yeah.
from that as a society. Also, anywhere like Florida, I remember that being so stupid. I was like, okay,
Oh,
there are palm
absolutely.
trees and the sun's out, and the same goes for LA.
Mm-hmm.
So please,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what
Mm-hmm.
Scorpio season's all about:
Yeah.
shutting down societal norms.
Yeah, it is.
Welcome back, folks. We missed ya. We had a bit of a delayed week there. All due to Heather's fault. Just kidding. Of course it was me. It was all my fault. We had ourselves a launch right into Scorpio week, didn't we, Heather?
An eclipsey time.
Yeah, the ships were not passing in the night. The ships were not even in the same ocean.
Mm-hmm.
It was, scheduling was a whole epidemic,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was my fault. We won't get too into it, of course. We're just gonna blow past it. But
Yeah.
listeners,
Nothing's your fault.
nothing's ever been my fault once, actually. If you check the books, check
If
the
you open your
records.
third eye, actually, nothing is anywhere.
Yeah. Reread those receipts. Yeah. Also, yeah. Nothing's wrong. Nothing's right. Life isn't real. Anyway. It's too Scorpio in here already, huh, Heather?
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I'm so happy to be back. Heather and I caught up for about 3 hours before this.
It was necessary.
It truly was.
And there's
Couldn't have
still
been more
so much that I didn't even tell you.
I
But
know.
that's
And I
okay.
also, it's with as much as I did talk, Heather, would you believe I felt the same?
I'm sure. There's simply not enough time.
There's never enough time with Heather. I agree. But folks, yeah, we missed you. Welcome back. Heather Cunningham on the sticks here with us. My lovely, beautiful co-host, my little Scorpio dark princess, tapping into her Wednesday energy. I'm so sorry. I'm going to bring up Wednesday probably a lot. I just binged it, and I binged it when it first came out, but I think it's such a good show.
I'm only now realizing that you're referencing Wednesday Addams. I was just like,
yeah.
for when you brought that up, and originally I was like, oh yeah, it's Wednesday. We're wearing our Wednesday outfits, and it's not even Wednesday. It's Tuesday.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Jesus
No, that's
Christ.
so funny.
Okay.
Yes, have you seen Wednesday?
I have not, but I'm sure I'd love it.
It's so cute and good. Everyone should watch it. Jenna Ortega is phenomenal in it. It's so cute. Tim Burton.
From Glee?
No, Jenna Ortega, am I saying her name right? Oh my God, no, wait. Am I saying her name right? Now I'm gonna second guess myself. Mark the time.
Jenna Ortega.
I want to say that's her name.
She plays Wednesday?
Please, God, let her play Wednesday. Yes, I'm right. Okay. Woo, I almost passed out. Yeah, Jenna Ortega. This role really, she was in Scream 5, which like, right. She's a child. She's been acting since a kid. She's been in stuff. But then she was like in Scream 5. Spoiler alert.
I see. Okay.
She's also in Scream 6.
Very distinct features.
Oh my God, she's gorgeous. Yes. But then Wednesday is like what really blew her up. And you know, it's like her big role, I would say. But it came out last Christmas, I believe, and I watched it with my parents. So, and it's like, it's very Beetlejuice. It's very Tim Burton-esque, where it's like spooky, but also like fun for the family. But also a little spooky. But it's fun. It's awesome. I highly recommend. And I always have to put on Halloween themes, of course. I already watched Hocus Pocus 1 and 2, and Stranger Things is going to get binged next. I love this time of year. And by the way, folks, I'm Miranda, your second in command co-host, the one with all the questions and weirdly too many answers for nobody's good. But no, this is just I love this time of year. Just because of like the seasons, Halloween time. I kind of like it when this is the time of year when I do like that it gets dark earlier, because it's like it matches the theme and the spookiness. But then on a whole astrological level, Heather, woo, it can also be kind of a dark and spooky time, no?
Yeah. I know. It can be heavy. I have been watching a lot of videos about Scorpio season, about the upcoming Taurus lunar eclipse, and I was reading about the Scorpio mythology in my Liz Green Astrology of Fate book yesterday. I went to the koi pond near my apartment and sat and read it, and oh my god, the koi fish are so very Pisces. But anyway, that's a tangent. I just like love being near them. I'm like, wow, I feel my spirituality. But yeah, it's the Scorpio shit. I love it because I feel like I need intensity in my life to feel alive, and like I love going to the depths. I love making people uncomfortable by talking about like my therapy sessions instead of the weather. But yeah, it's intense. It's intense. It's like cozy on the one hand, but like the Scorpio themes are all about like looking at your shadow, going to the darkest parts of yourself and bringing that to light and transforming and dying in some way and being reborn. And it's a lot.
Truly. No, it always is. And then there's always, again, in the way the elemental, what am I trying to say? The way the astrological calendar and the pattern that it falls into, we always have this sort of introspective, heavier, watery time right before. It's like we have this this introspective, heavy, watery time, so that it's like we know what to burn when the fire comes. We know what to let go of, and we're ready to do so. This is like the time we, not necessarily, I don't want to say like hold on to things, but it is the time to sit with it. It's the time to really be in it. It's just that is the energy it is. It's uncomfortable for most, and it's usually never the easiest time for most, and that's why Halloween gets sprinkled in there.
Yeah, no,
as
truly.
a fun little distraction.
Truly.
No, but yeah, I love that like Halloween does fall during Scorpio time, which like I get, it is just like the aspects that are Scorpio that happen to fall with a fun holiday that people celebrate, but that also the fun comes from the heavy and leaning in, essentially. That's truly the energy you have to do. Just like it's like this is the time of year to like lean in and watch those spooky movies and like be in that spooky energy. It's the same, you do the same emotionally.
Yeah, even the idea of putting on a costume and dressing up as someone else is like symbolic of the Scorpio shapeshifter thing, and how like they say like Scorpio wears a mask, and it's like all about the inner saboteur and like owning the shadow part of yourself. And like there's RuPaul with his double Scorpio as a drag queen, and that's his whole life theme. And it's I love that element too. And then Thanksgiving in Sagittarius is all about overindulging but also being grateful and optimistic. It's like you can't write this shit.
God, yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah,
you really can't write this shit. I know that we say that all the time, but it's so, God, I love being constantly reminded.
Yeah. And then Christmas being in Capricorn, being all about capitalism. Buy shit.
And
you getting
the presents early. Yeah. Getting that shit handled early, checking off boxes on your list.
Getting your bonus.
Showing love by like giving gifts and getting the gifts there on time. Because God, I love giving gifts. I cannot for the light. You're like, we know when Christmas is. No, we know when these holidays
It becomes
are.
such a fucking stressful thing.
But not for a Capricorn. They're in their
Not for a
elements where they
Capricorn.
thrive.
Mm-hmm.
That, yeah, it's so. I love it. I really do
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Scorpio. That's interesting to hear the I'm sure you've mentioned this before, Heather, especially when we covered Scorpio. Just I'm sure all the time you've mentioned this, but also especially when we covered Scorpio last season. But that's really interesting to hear the shapeshifter thing, because as we've discussed, I know Gemini a lot of times in on a surface level understanding of astrology gets the reputation for like being two-faced because of its the two-faced like symbol of it, right?
Yeah.
And like two sides of a coin idea. But it's really interesting to hear because I've always defended it in the way that I don't like it when people say that, of course. Any negative talk about any sign is always unappreciated, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's different energies involved, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, but I always defend the Gemini thing because I'm like, Geminis are really good at adapting to their environment. They're really good at like sort of like what the environment
seeing
sort of
all
calls
sides
for.
of things, and
yes.
seeing what the reading a room, all that.
Mm-hmm. Having a curiosity for wanting to understand and be open,
all
especially.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it like I always get defensive and I'm like, they're not two-faced. It's
no,
the
you
fact
should get
that,
defensive. I agree.
yeah, I thank you, Heather. I'm glad for all the tires I've slashed. Anyway, but no, exactly. Like I think there's what you're, that's a very surface level understanding of it. So it's really interesting to hear the shape shifting analogy you gave, or what you said represents. Can you go into that a little bit more for me?
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's interesting because Scorpio is the only fixed water sign, and fixed energy it's fixed. It's Scorpio gets the reputation for being the most stubborn sign, Scorpio and Taurus, which are on the same axis. But Scorpio and Taurus are both fixed. So it's about follow through and sticking with something. Change isn't exactly comfortable. And yet the symbolism of Scorpio is that you have to die a million deaths and be reborn. It is like the sign that has to constantly transform itself. Like that is what the energy is about. It's like,
and we're still confused if Taylor Swift has a Scorpio moon.
Scorpio rising. Yeah, I
sorry.
actually now am like thinking, yeah, she totally does.
It's Cancer
like,
moon. Should we think she has Cancer moon?
Yeah, we know she has Cancer moon. We're not sure about the rising, moon. But I am now thinking Scorpio rising probably makes sense, because the other thing is that Scorpio is also all about power. And RuPaul, I listened to this long speech he gave about the people who truly are powerful in this lifetime are the people who are willing to die a million deaths and pivot and like reshape the ego, because the ego is actually like stupid. But anyway,
wow. Gaga has also said, I know Gaga's not a Scorpio, but she's an Aries, but she's said that she's like, if you want to move forward, you have to leave yourself behind. Like,
no, it makes sense. You have to be willing to shapeshift. Wow.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, but it's so true. But yeah, so it's that's what I mean, I guess, is that the symbolism of Scorpio is getting to the darkest, deepest parts of yourself and like being willing to die the ego. Yeah, like just it's constant to face regeneration.
Like you kind of said. Yeah, I feel like so many times what people don't realize when it's like you got to fight your demons, that your demons are, I mean, I guess they don't always have to necessarily be created by you, of course, but a lot of times the thing that you are really fighting is like truly like your own power. There's so many times, like they say, like, people get in their own way, or like exactly like what you're talking about. The ego almost has to die. You have to kill it, because a lot of times it's working overtime to protect you. It's not nearly usually always the voice of reason. You've gotten yourself along this far. You can trust that you're not just going to make stupid decisions. It's like but the ego acts sort of as like a protective, overbearing parent, like a helicopter parent in a way.
Yeah.
It's just constantly there to talk you away from any danger, and might create, I love that. I just love that. And also what you said, Heather, too, in terms So since it's the start of Scorpio season, I have my little, got my big old astrology.
Yeah, let's talk.
Handbook out.
Yeah.
Scorpio, the scorpion, just going off of what you said, because I read this before we like started the podcast.
Oh, cool.
I kind of highlighted little things I wanted to, or just new parts I wanted to share. As you were saying that, listen to this. The sign of Scorpio suffers from its association with the scorpion, since its symbol is often hated and feared, right? The scorpion, however, was not always reviled. In ancient Egypt, it was defied in the form of Selket, the scorpion goddess. Selket was the protectress of the dead, and she is often seen on walls of tombs with her wings spread out in a protective gesture. And also just the whole idea of like Halloween, what am I trying to say? Just everything that sort of surrounds celebrating death always comes during this month, during the Scorpio season. I love that it was like in Egypt, this wasn't considered like a thing that was gross, get out of here, or bad, poisonous. It was like, in fact, like, I don't know. It's just so interesting.
Yeah, each energy of the zodiac is very necessary in terms of like human development and life, and Scorpio is a necessary part of that.
How much that bullshit gets in the way too of what it's like. This was never its true intent, or this was never right. What, like, how we read this exactly. This is why there is such a misunderstanding on a surface level, or like you're letting your human world define something that was never not intended for that. But that's you have to remember, human world warps things. And I know this is such a trend right now, but I don't know if you've seen this. I watch too many TikToks, but like recently there was a whole discussion about this, that like pigeons are domesticated animals. Like now in our human world, we're like, ew, get, shoo. Like they're around us all the time, and it's like, get out of here, you pigeon. They went into there was like a whole history that's recently coming to the surface, and people are talking about this online, how like pigeons are a domesticated creature that they were always with humans. That's like why they exist. And then we kicked them to the curb and decided they're not. So like literally pigeons are domestic, and we've like now they're just kind of like there and not supposed, they don't really like know what to do. It's like, it was such a sad thing, but it's like, even just in that short time of like, you have to remember where we are isn't where we've always been, and that kind of isn't that the human experience? That like, I think the whole idea of astrology is that there's a bigger world scope, a bigger universal and more mythical, right? Not mythical, what am I trying to say? Majestic scope to things. And like the whole idea of this human experience is to like rip you as far away from that as possible, but you gotta hold on, baby. You gotta stay strong. We gotta remember our roots. Anyways, it's just, it's interesting to see, especially I feel like any surface level takes we don't always love with astrology. It's usually something that's been warped, that that's not the true intent, or how we're understanding it isn't how it was meant to be understood, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And yet we still make these divine astrological connections to it all.
I know. I love astrology. I'm already like really excited talking about Scorpio. Like it is kind of funny. I feel like we're entering the more, I hesitate to say complex, but I think there is truth to that. Like it's because the second half of the zodiac is just, there's so many more layers to it all. And like Scorpio is such a fun sign to talk about, because it's fun to talk about the sign that people don't understand on a surface level, but it's like, there's so much complexity to it. It's like,
it's a deep sign.
It is
literally.
It
just is a deep sign. And in terms of, I think, understanding it, being in the season of it, it brings up a lot of deeper, bigger sort of life things for the individual. That is like the overall energy. It's deep. It's a deep black water abyss of a sign. And I love swimming in it, baby.
Me too.
Dive in head first. You gotta lean in. What are you gonna do? Skip this season? No.
No, that's how you hit a midlife crisis. You get a convertible, you're 50, you cheat on your wife, you know. They didn't indulge in the Scorpio.
Yeah. You didn't take your time in Scorpio like you were supposed to, did you? Sir? No, I love it. I do. But I'm also, I don't know if it's my water assness as well, that I'm kind of like, dive head first into the water. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I'm like,
tell me
finally,
twice.
none of this Libra. No, I love Libra, but like, I'm way more comfortable in the water.
We're getting out of our head into our depths before we let it all burn, baby.
Yes. Yes.
Heather, shall we move into these Scorpio signs we have today? Couple of fun Scorpios today, Heather, I must admit. I'm a fan of both of these weirdos. Just kidding. But a fan of both of these darker souls. Both of them in their artistic right, I feel like could not be more Scorpio, respectfully.
Oh my God.
Like, it bleeds through. And both of them do such sort of different art forms.
Yeah.
As we
but in exciting
compartmentalize
ways.
them. Yeah. Both are heavy hitters in their art forms. And with that.
Yeah.
Drum roll, please, for our first Scorpio of the episode and of the season.
Yes, I'll be covering.
I was like, you can say it.
I mean, I don't care, but I am so excited to cover this person. SZA, the iconic musical artist. Yeah, I fucking love SZA. I love the new album. I love the last album, Control, because holy shit, do you feel well? Also, SZA has Pisces moon, Aquarius rising, and my favorite thing about her songwriting is that it like reads like poetry, and they say that like both Pisces and Scorpio are like the poets of the zodiac. Like, it just, the way that like she writes, where like the sentence doesn't finish until like the next line, and there's like a flow. I don't even know how to articulate it, but it just like I love the way she writes music.
Her cadence. Yeah. Literally the way she writes, and then also the cadence of how,
the way she forms like the lines of her songs, where like a thought's not finished until the next. It's like, I don't know. It's so good. Effective to me. But more than that, like the passion in her lyrics, and she's just so Scorpio. I mean, her last album is literally like, it's a breakup album, but it's the fact that the main song is "I Just Killed My Ex."
I love it.
What is
it? The Kill Bill song?
My ex. Yeah. Da, 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 da. Oh God.
No,
but it's so Scorpio. But then it's like a revenge album, but then there's songs where she's like, "But I really just want you back," and like, "No one gets you like me," and like, blah blah blah.
Yes. So also a fan of the first album. This last album, though, just I couldn't stop playing it. And I love that artistically. I love it when an artist is like I think Olivia Rodrigo does it in like one of her songs too, like Get Him Back. It's like the whole thing is like, I want to fucking get him back, but like it's like a double meaning of like, and also like get him back because like I miss him and I'm sad. And I love it when artists are able to tap into both, because just like
it shows the nuances.
Yes, the nuances, the complications. Because it's really easy to write a hit about just like a fuck you hit. I think it's really hard to be like fuck you because I love you. It's really hard to admit that like someone could only have that like power over you, and you could only really be hurt by this because of what you feel for them,
which is so fucking Scorpio. Message,
then to be vulnerable and like admit that in a way is so I love it. I love it. And then I was gonna say, Heather, the actual album artwork,
I was just I was literally just
SZA
going to
over
say that.
water. Yeah.
Over water, all by herself on this tall ass diving board over the sea. Like that is so Scorpio Pisces. Like, holy shit.
Like the album couldn't scream water more.
Yes.
Literally.
Quite literally. Yeah. And then Control is all about like her insecurities, I think, but the fact that she's like so honest about it, and there's so many Scorpio moments in that album too, where she's like, I'm out here working, making money, like I'm moving up. Like, also, did you know she used to be a stripper when
I think maybe I did know that actually.
Or no, maybe it's just that she worked at a strip club. I could be wrong, actually. Don't quote me. But she like kind of talks about that in one of her songs.
Don't record me on a podcast.
Yeah, don't record me on a podcast.
I'm like, but I don't know. But I also like, I know Cardi B worked at a strip club or like was a dancer. Yeah. And like talks about that and like is like such a, because it was a huge moment of like, I had to do that in order to get out of my toxic ass relationship and get on my own. And like, I love how she speaks about it as like, no, I'm proud and I own it because it got me out of that bullshit situation. Anyways, regardless.
Yeah.
SZA has some probably darker historic roots in the ways that most Scorpios do.
Yes.
Like I feel, not to be like some big tragic event happened by any means, but I just feel like Scorpios always have a darker their actual chart kind of is like, I don't know. It's like, how else are you in depth if life doesn't throw you experiences to feel it almost? It feels unfair, but it's like, what sign's going to handle it better? Does that make sense?
No, it's so true. Every Scorpio celebrity I've encountered, every Scorpio, client that I've done readings for, it's such a thing where even if like you didn't have something traumatic happen to you at a young age, it maybe surrounded you in some way, or you just had to like, there's something that life put you in a situation where you had to like understand the depths and the darkness of life. I don't know.
And like it's like from the beginning.
Yeah.
And I'm again, not to, like I said, regardless of if SZA like was a dancer or worked at a dance club, so to speak. Like, I'm not trying to say that that's like a tragic upbringing again.
Oh, like, no, not at all.
I do love the way that Cardi like speaks on it. Like,
yeah,
this career that so many people shit on is the reason I got out of a really bad thing. In a way that I don't know, just saying. But regardless of that, it feels like that's not usually a normal route. I like, it's not like every single celebrity we know does always come from like sort of a background where it's like you had to do X, Y, and Z to get there. Again, the celebrity ranges from like Nepo baby to someone who truly like started from the bottom. Now they're here, right? Or so to speak. I just find it fascinating though that like from a young age, it feels like SZA's had darker experiences.
I do know that she felt very, I do know that she felt very rejected in school growing up because religion like set her apart from all of her peers and she was like bullied and
interesting.
So
again, the environment of us that a Scorpio, like, I'm not trying to say that like they thrive in, but again, it's like if any sign's gonna handle it and then come back stronger, or
which is the whole
again, like it's like,
like
you don't really have it's like, again, Scorpios, this is like the natural nature of them, like let it burn, we rebirth, death must happen to
be stronger. They're also the strongest sign, I think.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, it's not as like more of like a sadder tale as it is. It's like, it's truly like, you can't write this shit. It's like, it's so interesting to watch these Scorpios go through universal bigger issues that like truly that usually always are out of their control. It's shit from a young age, completely out of their control usually.
Interesting that
the way SZA speaks about this in her own music applies that to the life she's living now.
Yeah. Interesting
She's
that
seen some shit. Go ahead.
totally, absolutely. Yeah, sorry. It's interesting
Go
that
ahead, go
as you were saying that, I was thinking her last album is literally called Control, and control is such a thing for Scorpios. Like they
Mm-hmm.
want control over everything. And I think like that
Right.
is, it's like they'll hang on till the end and then they're like, all right, gotta let this die and be reborn. And it's control is such a, so it's cool that her album's called Control.
Right.
Anyway, SZA
Also,
gets it.
I wanted to say too, Heather, because I was looking this up while we were talking earlier, and I
Yeah.
just clicked back to it and realized I was looking this up. But there was a complex interview that was like from the, it's on the website complex. Anyways,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
it's like SZA recalls her time bartending at strip
Right.
clubs.
I think that's what it is.
But specifically, listen to this. Listen how fucking Scorpio this is. I wanted to point this out. In a new interview, SZA said she regrets disrespecting, quote unquote, disrespecting her parents when she ditched studying marine biology to bartend at various strip clubs. So I find it interesting that it's like
Yeah.
purposely maybe like took a route that was like burn it to the ground, like a very like
right.
revolt against the norm that she was experiencing at the time. That's interesting. So
Yeah.
it seems like, and I guess again this is an interview in her words, that like a main reason she did that was to be fucking Scorpio to her parents.
Yeah, that's
Just
so
saying.
funny. No,
I feel
you're
like a lot
so
of Scorpios
right.
always have that issue with like authority, or like their parent, like they want to pave their own way.
Yeah,
Like and yeah.
the number one thing I read on Reddit when I'm like on the astrology Reddit and people are just talking about the energy of their own signs is that like what people admire the most about Scorpio is that it is, I think it's, yeah, similar. I was going to say similar to Aquarius and Leo. It just like knows itself and isn't going to compromise. It will like die and be reborn ego wise, but it's also like there's so much, yeah, like I'm going to do it my way and I don't need other people to like validate me is such a like noble thing about Scorpio.
Yeah. It also, sorry, I wanted to add this other thing too. It said, or she explains how dropping out of college lit a fire that was necessary for her at that time.
Oh,
because
that is
it was
so Scorpio.
She was like, she dropped out of
Fashion school.
Went to
fashion school at one point.
Basically the bartending at strip clubs was also just to like make money while she figured out a huge drastic change is essentially the whole thing. Like, and then it's also like you're doing like strip clubs are like, well, I guess they're open during the day, but it's like, to me, that's like a kind of like a,
no,
the
it's
energy at strip clubs is cannot it, like, well,
it's
a lot
sexual,
of times it can't,
it's dark, it's you're in the dark room
like
where
it's a
people
heavier
are horny.
energy.
It's yeah.
Working in bars in general.
It's
I always feel like, because I've worked in atmospheres that like that also are like late, even just working at comedy clubs. And it's always so interesting. And there was a bartender on TikTok who talked about this once too, that like the vibration, if you're ever at a bar late at night, if you've been drinking, for example, even if you haven't been drinking, even worse, if you haven't been drinking, you go into a bar late at night where everyone else has been, the vibe is immediately like, well, for one, you're sober, but like the vibration is a lower vibration, right? So like you're like, it's interesting that like she went off this like course that was probably more like chosen for her, put herself in an atmosphere that was very low, darker vibration, so to speak, like truly just the nature of it, right? To light a fire under her to figure out what she wanted, like that's it's so Scorpio.
It's so Scorpio.
And pissed off her parents while doing it. And then now has the perspective to be like, I regret those choices. Scorpio.
Yeah,
anyway,
the wisdom
really
from oh my God. Absolutely. I can't agree more. I love that you said that. That's really cool. And I think being a Scorpio is tough. I would say it's a tougher energy to like deal with, but they're made for it. But this chart is actually like so many grand trines. She has a grand trine from the Pisces moon, right? Because her sun and moon are in the same element. So if you have your sun and moon in the same element, those planets get along and form a trine, which at least is very nice. But then she's Jupiter in Cancer in the 6th house. Jupiter is the lucky planet, forming the third part of that grand trine, which is always a triangle of blue lines. So wow, like I think that she's had to face her demons, I'm sure, and like find that Scorpio grit and fire to have a very driven, passion-filled life. But there's also so much ease in the Scorpio sun getting along with the Pisces moon, getting along with Jupiter and Cancer,
Like
that
in the ease of like owning that and just and then
yeah.
like and then using it for not using it, but then like owning that in a way that you now have a successful artistic career.
And I do know that she kind of got lucky. She was just like in the space working another like weird job where she was just like around music people, and she was like making music on her own, and they like ended up hearing it, and then she catapulted.
Right.
So, yeah.
As she should. But
But
yeah.
she's
Wow.
also, she must be so wise. I feel like most of her lyrics are about like interpersonal dramas and like her relationship and her passionate like feelings and also like
Yeah.
body image stuff. But like, I
Her
wouldn't be
depth.
surprised if in the future there's a more Aquarius rising. Like, there's also so much energy in this chart that is like philosophical and like
Right.
broad scope. I wouldn't be surprised if in the future she leans into that more.
Right.
But yeah, what a cool person.
I love SZA.
Me
SZA,
too.
come on the pod. Let's get into the depths. Let's really
Let's
talk about it. Let's talk that
let's
Scorpio shit.
and then sing for me.
Uh
And let's jam
yeah.
out.
I was so bummed. I think I was out of town when she was here. But
I
her
know. I
concert
thought
would be
about
so
seeing her live. I almost bought tickets.
watching just even like the concert production, because like I think she like dives off the board. It's like the background of the stage is like her, and then when the concert starts, at one point she
I
dives
have
off the board.
chills. That's so, she's thinking about the symbolism of that.
She
That's
gives a
so
shit.
fucking cool.
She's deep. Yeah,
That's so cool.
I loved it. I loved it. Off the deep end she goes, and as do we.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And with that, Heather, shall we scooch on over to our next Scorpio guest? Birth
Yeah.
chart? Jesus. Uh Also a dark little weirdo. No, just kidding. Just such a Scorpio through and through, which is extra fun because this person acts. And then again, you brought up the changing of the facades. Not only does this person, or like the changing of the what am I trying to say? Like changing your exterior, changing your face to
Yeah.
mold
Mm-hmm.
into very
Mm-hmm.
Scorpio, right? The way Halloween. This person is not only do they act, they're very
Right.
good at what they do. It's like even the roles that he gets cast in
Mm-hmm.
are Scorpios.
Yes, Johnny
Like,
Cash.
oh
It's so much
geez.
more than that. Yeah.
Yeah. And he himself. And then again, speaking of like, um, the I'm not trying to say Scorpios have it unlucky by any means, but historically, his brother overdosed in the fucking
When he was
Viper Room
young.
in LA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And
No, it's crazy how common this is for Scorpios to have some traumatic shit like that happen young.
and to have the world sort of know that, and then like you're carrying your brother's last name, and that's always sort of like that was a huge Hollywood thing and a huge world or not world, but like just a huge like it happened in the heart of Hollywood, in the Viper Room off Sunset. I think it was the Viper Room off Sunset Boulevard. And like that's literally the heart of Hollywood. He was with his brother was with other celebrities when he overdosed. So like other famous people were there. And then it was
I've been to
this
the
like
Viper.
huge Hollywood headline thing that, and so to like, that's how you start or sort of enter your career. That's a heavy, even the burden that was put on him
Yeah. Yeah. No,
was a heavy one.
absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, okay. So also his parents were missionaries in a Christian religious cult. So that has got to be fucking crazy.
Yeah,
And
I would say so.
yeah, and when he was a young child, they returned to the US, left the cult, and changed the family name. So their original last name was Bottom, and they changed it to Phoenix to be symbolic of a phoenix rising from the ashes,
I was
which
literally
is
gonna
literally
say.
another symbol of Scorpio that all the astrologers
Right.
talk about, is that it is the phoenix rising from the ashes. When like Scorpios don't like the symbolism of the scorpion, they're like, well, it's also the phoenix, and that's pretty cool. Like, how fucking cool that Joaquin's last name is literally Phoenix.
Yeah. No, literally. Wow. I was gonna bring that up too. How
Oh yeah.
symbolically, like, but no, that also, I did not know that that like was not their original last name.
Yeah.
That's really bottom. That's not Scorpio. Phoenix, that's Scorpio.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, the shit with his brother River, god damn it.
Yes, River. God, thank you. I could not for the life of me think of it. Yeah. And then yeah, it's just yeah, Joaquin is he's fascinating, but he's
Mhm.
definitely, it's so funny because he is one of the most well-known famous actors and has like, you know, that Hollywood name. That's like, that person was meant to be famous. What were they going to do with that name? You know,
Right.
not be famous.
Right.
Joaquin Phoenix, right?
Yeah.
And
And
now
all
to
the
hear that it like
siblings
wasn't,
were kind of
yeah.
pursuing it.
And the
Yeah,
way
yeah.
that,
Sorry.
yeah. No, being, no. I'm sorry. I'm just more like, it's all adding up and it's funny. And, what was I just about to say? Joaquin being a darker. Oh, it's also like, you know, I feel for him because he's not anti his fame, but kind of, right? Like he, well, in that Scorpio way, very private, but then has this huge famous tragedy happen. His whole career has that sort of shadow with it. Is just a huge famous person. Right. It's in the family. And then he's very good at his craft, very talented at what he does specifically. Yeah. And then to kind of not to also be someone who's like, I'm just a regular guy. And he's such a like a liberal forward person. One of the act, like, it's very rare that I feel like actors devote their whole speeches right to like other causes or other things. He's one of
Yeah.
those. Brandon Marlowe was
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
or Marlowe Brandon. Brandon Marlowe Brandon did the same, which was like huge for his time. But I remember Joaquin like doing that at like speeches and stuff, or for like award shows, and making it bigger and in that Scorpio way, making it more about the depth, using his platform right.
Mhm.
Um, God, he screams Scorpio. He bleeds Scorpio. It's really
Mhm. Mhm.
the
No,
Scorpio
it's
as it gets,
true.
honestly, truly.
And there's a huge, they call it a stellium when planets are clumped together, fewer than 10 degrees apart. And Joaquin has all these planets clumped together: Sun, Venus, Mars, Uranus, and Pluto. And it looks like Uranus and Pluto are actually at the edge of Libra, but
Mm,
Sun, Venus, and Mars, so two personal planets too, in Scorpio, very Scorpio. And we don't know the rising, but
I know.
it might not
Aries
even be
moon.
Aries moon. It could be
Mm,
Pisces because it's only 6 degrees Aries.
the Pisces moon.
That could make sense. I could almost
Because,
see that more.
well, because I was gonna say fire always makes sense for someone in the spotlight, right? Like we
Yeah.
can, that's always an easy connection. But the Scorpio, as we just called it, the Phoenix, right? And it's like it's a
Mhm.
burning, astrology does kind of love to say it's like the fires of the water signs. And again, I think that rep, even on a surface level, is more like Scorpios like hold grudges, or they're more, they're spicier. So they're like
Mhm.
fire signs in the way that they're like mean. I feel like that's usually the rep is sort of what that
Yeah.
means.
Yeah.
But the more, it's so fun to be reminded that like a phoenix is another symbol for Scorpion. Like we said, they're all about this sort of rebirth through fire, burning it all down, right? Being cool with the depth and like the sort of the inner workings of doing that. My God, that even just that's like a fire behavior, like to just be brave enough to burn it all down. But yeah, I love that when I think of them as the fire sign of the waters, that's more of now what I will think of in the way that they shed, in the way that they're reborn. And so Scorpio kind of as the sun does a lot of that heavy lifting. And again, if we classify it as almost a fire of the water, the Pisces moon, I feel like does check out.
Yeah.
They do. But Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have the rising. What you?
And the
I'm sorry, Heather.
religious thing
Oh, sorry.
too is
Yeah,
very Pisces. And I don't know, Joaquin personality wise doesn't give me Aries moon, doesn't give me like needs to be the center of attention
needs
like
to really
Aries
speak
sometimes does.
his
Yeah, like I
mind
think that
immediately, or
there's more privacy and introversion there. Which is also
makes
Scorpio, but
sense.
I could see Pisces moon.
Yeah.
Um
I'm so sorry, Heather. Did what did you say that SZA's rising moon was?
Pisces moon, but Aquarius
Pisces moon.
rising. Mm-hmm.
Mm, interesting. Ah,
Yeah.
Joaquin. What an interesting, honestly, a phoenix himself, if we think about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, Joaquin, come on the pod. Don't share anything.
Yeah.
It'll just be fun to sit in your energy.
Funny.
Heather,
Don't
thank
say
you.
anything.
And don't share anything personal. Just come sit here.
It's
Oh,
funny.
Heather, this Scorpio time. It's a handful. It's a ruckus, but we love it. We got to lean in. Truly, there's ever been a time to just lean in to the darkness. It's Halloween, baby. It's Scorpio season. And with that, what's going on in the sky? What's coming up that I know we got
Got the grand
literally on?
finale.
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like there's some fireworks
Uh-huh.
on the
It's
horizon here.
yeah, and again, you'll feel this the eclipses more if you are a cardinal sign, if you're
Right.
especially Libra, Cancer, Aries, Capricorn, but also early degrees of Taurus. If not, you might not feel very much at all, but still, eclipses are a big deal. And we're approaching on Saturday a Taurus lunar eclipse. It's a full moon, and it's the last Taurus eclipse that is near the nodes. They're always, I guess the eclipses are always near the nodes, but this is like the last time we're going to have a Taurus eclipse interacting with the Aries North node for like a long time, for I want to say at least like 20 years. So,
Holy shit.
yeah, and it's wrapping up this sort of narrative that we've had for a while. In 2022, we had a Scorpio eclipse. This Taurus Scorpio theme has been at play for a while. The nodes just changed from Taurus and Scorpio into Aries and Libra. So the themes with all four of these signs, Taurus, Scorpio, Aries, and Libra, is relationships. But I think also with this eclipse, it's sort of like practicality and reality
Right.
and that Taurus stuff versus what you can just feel intuitively with the Scorpio stuff.
Right.
And sort of how to find a compromise between the two. And yeah, it's a lot about ownership, possession, jealousy, all those Taurus Scorpio themes.
Right.
But yeah, the Aries Libra just recently switching nodes and being a part of this also is like new energies around relationships, new feelings about how you want to engage in relationships, independence versus being not codependent, but independence versus dependence, all those
Right.
things. Yeah,
Fascinating.
but so that's Saturday. We just entered Scorpio season yesterday, so we are
We're officially in it.
in it. And let's see, did I write anything else down? But yeah, the eclipses help you to become aware of something that's been lurking in the shadows, which is already a very Scorpio theme.
Yep.
But you might experience that a bit extra this week. And they say that you could be catapulted in a new direction, but again, that's probably only going to happen if you have placements near
Right. I also
where
was
that's happening.
I was reading, whenever I say reading anything, we know I mean watching a TikTok, but someone was talking about how like the eclipse is coming up, and it's maybe like if you do like, it's maybe not the best time to share your impulsive thoughts, or maybe not always the best time to like necessarily talk about hard things, but it's a great time to like introspectively reflect and work on hard things. But in terms of communication, it can be a tense time. I don't know if you relate to that at all, Heather, or agree, but I found that interesting of like, you might be feeling a lot of intensities. So once we pass through this eclipse energy, then communicate what.
Yeah.
Because it is just to remember, it's You're not always your feelings.
Right.
That's why it's such an important thing to remember for when you need to feel them. Just because you're having a feeling or a thought does not, the ego does a good job of being like, you're having a feeling and a thought. That's us. That's what we embody. That's everything we are. Not true. And it's important to know that so that you can properly lean into what you're feeling in an observant way, right? Not to get all therapeutical on the pod, but
no.
as an emotional, watery bitch myself, who sometimes gets too cozy in the depths, likes to almost gets a little too cold. She's so far and down there. Come up for air, bitch. Come up. Like, the important part of feeling feelings is not to disassociate or like disconnect from them, but to remember that they aren't you. That's why I think it's so hard sometimes to lean into really uncomfortable feelings. And again, do not always practice what I'm preaching currently, but with that, it's taken me a hard long time, and it's still something I practice, that you're allowed to feel something and think something, and it doesn't have to consume you.
Right.
So, and running from it only makes the shadow get bigger as it stomps after you.
I know. I don't want to, because I think about this a lot. Like, the idea that like I'm not my thoughts has been very helpful, because I think that I'm prone to negative thinking sometimes, but like, or being hard on myself. But like, I think there's a difference between that like you can't detach completely, right? Because you have to like
right, but
be an
it's
observer.
like, no, right, the observant part and feeling it part though is the most important, I think, and that part gets so avoided because it's so uncomfortable to be in, because you are so attached to it. Is that it's about, that's why it's so hard. And if honestly, I'm gonna be 30, and I wish someone told me we're not our thoughts so much younger. Like,
but think about generations before us.
I know.
Still,
I know.
Not even figuring that out.
Be patient with yourselves. It's a dark, intense time. It's going to require some patience. Leaning in always does. Yes. And it's okay to be. And it's okay to not have it all your solutions lined up. That's not what feeling things is about. It's not always about it's not always solutions oriented, which I also think is frustrating for some of the earth signs, right? For example, or maybe the air as well. To just feel sort of like, where's the direction going? Whereas I think water and fire is a little more like, what direction?
Right. And that's a good way to describe the eclipse with the Taurus planets. We also have all these other outside Taurus planets that are a part of the eclipse. Like the astrologers are like, it's Taurus versus Scorpio. It's like
there's a war.
Wanting the concrete.
Yep.
Understanding you can't figure everything out.
That feeling of at war with yourself, it's probably going to be a tense one, but I always have that.
I know, literally every day of my life.
I'm like, a lot of us can relate. Just it's a beautiful, patient, deep time, y'all. Lean in. It'll be nice. When else are you gonna lean in? After Halloween? Come on. Face those demons. Fight those shadows. You got a girl. I do. I just love this time, Heather, even through the intensities. And with that, we love you, folks. Have a gorgeous Scorpio week. We'll see you right back here next Thursday. No more week skipping.
Yeah.
And buckle up and have a happy eclipse. A deep, meaningful, happy eclipse.
Yes. Love you all.
I love you, Heather. Love you, listeners. See you next week. Infinite abundance.
Infinite abundance.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.